Fear doesn't wait for you to be ready. It doesn't check your calendar. It doesn't care about your excuses. It's sitting in the room with you right now while you read this, and you know it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That thing you've been putting off for 6 months. That phone call you haven't made. That business you haven't started. That relationship you haven't ended. That gym membership sitting there, unused, mocking you every time your bank statement comes in. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time. You tell yourself you're still thinking it through. You tell yourself 1,000 soft, comfortable lies every single day, and every single one of them has the same rotten root: fear. Not laziness, not lack of time, fear. And here's the part that's going to sting, so get ready. You are not scared of failing. You've failed 100 times before and survived just fine. You are scared of trying, really trying, all in, no safety net, and finding out that even your best isn't good enough. That's the real fear, not the fall, the verdict. Because as long as you never take the shot, you get to keep the fantasy alive. You get to keep telling yourself, I could have been something, instead of finding out for certain that you couldn't. That fantasy is the most expensive thing you own. It's costing you your whole life, and you're paying the bill in installments of regret, one missed year at a time. Let me tell you something about the mind, because you need to understand your enemy before you can beat it. Fear is not a signal that something is dangerous. Fear is a signal that something matters. Read that again. Your hands don't shake before a job interview for a job you don't want. Your stomach doesn't twist before you talk to someone you don't care about. Fear only shows up at the door of things that actually mean something to you. So every time you feel that cold drop in your gut, that's not the universe telling you to stop. That's the universe handing you a map. It's pointing directly at the exact thing you need to walk toward. And instead, most people spend their entire lives running in the opposite direction of every map they're ever given, calling it being realistic. You want to know the cruelest joke fear plays on you? It never actually goes away by waiting. Ever. You have been waiting for fear to leave for years, waiting to feel ready, waiting for the doubt to quiet down so you can finally move. And it hasn't happened, has it? It's not going to happen. Fear is not a weather pattern that passes if you sit still long enough. It's a guard dog, and it only backs down when you keep walking toward it like you're not afraid of getting bit. The second you hesitate, it smells it, and it gets bigger. The second you freeze, it wins. Fear feeds on stillness. It starves on motion. That's the whole secret. And nobody wants to hear it because it means there's no shortcut, no hack, no trick. There's just movement. Ugly, uncertain, terrified movement. And that's the only currency fear will ever accept as payment for your freedom. Think about the last time you were actually scared of something and did it anyway. Maybe it was speaking in front of a room full of people. Maybe it was walking into a hospital room to say goodbye to someone you loved. Maybe it was standing on a diving board as a kid, legs shaking, the whole world watching. Remember that feeling right before you jumped? That unbearable, screaming pressure in your chest? And remember what happened the second your feet left the board? It vanished. Instantly. Not slowly. Instantly. Because fear cannot survive in the same space as action. They are not roommates. One of them has to leave the moment the other one shows up. And you get to choose which one it is, every single time, in every single moment of your life. Most people just never realize they're the one holding the door. I need you to sit with something uncomfortable for a second. Somewhere out there right now, there is a version of you living the life you keep dreaming about, not a fantasy version. A real, parallel possibility that got cut off the moment you chose comfort over confrontation. That version of you started the business. That version of you asked her out. That version of you walked away from the job that was killing him slowly. That version of you is not smarter than you, not more talented, not luckier. The only difference is that version of you moved on the day fear showed up instead of negotiating with it. And somewhere, deep down, in the part of your mind you try not to visit late at night, you already know this. You feel the gap between who you are and who you were supposed to become. That gap has a name. It's called unlived life, and it is the heaviest thing a human being can carry. Here's what nobody tells you about brave people, the ones you put on a pedestal, the ones you watch on your phone at 1 a.m. wondering how they got there. They were scared, every single one of them. The soldier who ran toward gunfire to drag his brother to safety, terrified. The single mother who worked 3 jobs and started a business out of her kitchen at midnight, terrified. The kid who walked away from everything familiar to chase something nobody believed in, terrified. Courage was never the absence of fear. That's a myth for people who want an excuse to stay comfortable. Courage is fear walking. Courage is your knees knocking together while you take the step anyway. Anyone who tells you they weren't scared when they did the hardest thing they ever did is lying to you, or they weren't doing anything hard enough to matter. So let's talk about you, right now. Not some hypothetical person. You. What is the one thing? And you already know what it is. Don't even pretend you don't. What is the one thing you have been circling for months, maybe years, telling yourself you'll get to eventually? I want you to picture it clearly, not vaguely, clearly. See the exact shape of it. Feel the exact weight of what it would mean to finally do it. Now I want you to notice something. The fear you feel about it right now, in this exact moment, is the exact same size it was a year ago. It hasn't grown because the challenge got harder. It's grown because you've spent a year feeding it with avoidance. Every day you didn't act, you told your own mind that the threat was real and dangerous and worth running from. You trained yourself to be afraid. Nobody did that to you. You did that, one small retreat at a time. But here is the good news, and I mean this with everything in me. You built that fear with repetition, which means you can dismantle it with repetition too. It didn't take one bad day to make you this hesitant, and it won't take one good day to make you fearless. It takes one decision, followed by another, each one smaller than you think you need, each one proving to your nervous system that the monster you built in your head cannot actually touch you. Action is not just the cure for fear. Action is the proof against fear. Every time you do the thing you were scared of and survive it, you are gathering evidence in a trial you've been running against yourself your whole life. The trial where the verdict is whether you are someone who can be trusted to take care of their own future. And right now, you are losing that trial by default. Every single day you don't show up as a witness for yourself. I don't want you to feel good after this. I want you to feel unsettled. I want that unsettled feeling to sit in your chest like a stone until you do something about it, because comfort is the enemy tonight. You have been comfortable long enough. Comfortable is why the dream is still just a dream. Comfortable is why the goal is still on a sticky note instead of on a calendar. Comfortable is a slow, quiet, well-dressed thief, and it has been robbing you blind while whispering that everything is fine. It is not fine. You know it's not fine. That's why you're still listening to this instead of scrolling away. This is the moment where I tell you the truth that most people are too polite to tell you. Nobody is coming to save you from this. Not a mentor, not a lucky break, not motivation itself. Motivation is a match, not a fire, and matches burn out in seconds. You cannot wait to feel motivated to do the thing. You have to do the thing to feel motivated. That order matters. Get it backwards, and you will spend the rest of your life waiting for a feeling that only shows up after the work, never before it. So here's where we're going from here. We are going to rebuild you from the inside, piece by piece, in the next several parts of this. We're going to dig into exactly why your brain is wired to protect you from growth instead of pushing you toward it, and how to hijack that wiring on purpose. We're going to talk about the specific, brutal, practical mechanics of taking action when every cell in your body is screaming at you to stay still. We're going to talk about the people who took the leap with nothing but fear in their chest and came out the other side transformed, and exactly what they did in the 60 seconds before they moved. And we're going to build, piece by piece, an entirely new relationship between you and fear. One where fear stops being your warden and starts being your compass. But none of that will mean a single thing if you're not honest with yourself right now, in this moment, about what you've been avoiding. So before you go any further, I want you to say it. Not to me, to yourself. Name the thing. Whatever it is, name it, and understand that fear only exists until you take action against it. And the moment you move, even 1 inch, it starts to die. You said the name. Even if you only said it in your head, even if you're still sitting there right now trying to convince yourself you didn't really mean it, you did. Somewhere in you, something just cracked open. Good. Let it stay open. Because now we're going to walk into the machinery of why you've been stuck. And I promise you, once you see it clearly, you will never be able to unsee it. Your brain was not built for the life you're trying to live. Understand that. Your brain was built about 200,000 years ago on a savanna for one purpose only: keep you alive until tomorrow. That's it. That's the entire job description. Not help you become successful. Not help you build the business. Not help you become the man or woman you were meant to be. Just survive the night. And back then, the biggest threats to survival were things like predators, starvation, and getting kicked out of the tribe. So your brain developed a very simple, very powerful alarm system. And that system treats anything unfamiliar, anything uncertain, anything that could result in rejection or failure, as if it were a saber-toothed tiger crouched in the grass. It cannot tell the difference between "I might get eaten" and "I might get rejected when I ask for the promotion." To your nervous system, both of those trigger the exact same chemical alarm. Heart rate spikes, palms sweat, stomach drops, muscles tense to either fight or run. That is not weakness. That is ancient machinery doing exactly what it was built to do. The problem is, the machinery is thousands of years out of date, and it is trying to run software for a world that no longer exists. Here's the brutal irony. The very system designed to protect you from dying is now the thing that's slowly killing your potential. It's not being malicious. It doesn't know the difference between danger and discomfort. It sees you about to post that video, about to send that pitch, about to walk into that gym for the first time feeling out of place, and it fires the exact same alarm it would fire if you were standing at the edge of a cliff with a strong wind blowing. And most people, and I mean the overwhelming majority of people walking this earth, they hear that alarm and they obey it instantly, without question, the same way you'd yank your hand off a hot stove. They don't examine it. They don't ask, is this actually a threat, or is this just unfamiliar? They just retreat. And every time they retreat, the alarm system gets a reward. It learns, retreating worked. The tiger didn't get us. Let's do that again next time. That's how comfort zones are built. Not by choice, by repetition of retreat. So let's be precise about what's actually happening in your body when fear hits, because understanding the mechanism strips away its power. When that wave hits your chest, your amygdala, a small almond-shaped cluster of neurons sitting deep in your brain, has just fired off a threat signal faster than your conscious mind could even process what's happening. This happens in milliseconds. Before you've even had a coherent thought about the situation, your body is already flooding with adrenaline and cortisol. Your blood is rushing away from your digestive system and into your major muscle groups because your ancient brain thinks you might need to run or fight in the next few seconds. Your pupils dilate, your senses sharpen. This is not your imagination being dramatic. This is a full-body chemical event, and it is happening whether the threat is a bear or a difficult conversation with your father. And here's the key thing you need to burn into your memory. This response lasts, on average, somewhere between 90 seconds and a few minutes if you do not feed it with more fearful thoughts. 90 seconds. That's it. The wave crashes, and if you just let it move through you instead of running from it, it recedes on its own. But most people, the instant they feel that wave rising, start telling themselves a story. This is too much. I can't do this. What if I fail? What if they laugh? And that story is like pouring gasoline on a fire that was about to burn itself out. You're not actually fighting fear for hours. You're fighting your own narration of fear on a loop, and that loop is a choice, even when it doesn't feel like one. Now let's talk about the excuse machine, because your mind doesn't just stop at raising the alarm. It's far more sophisticated than that. Once the fear response fires, your brain needs to justify why you're not moving forward, because walking around with unexplained anxiety feels unbearable to a creature that needs to make sense of its world. So it manufactures reasons. Good, convincing, well-dressed reasons. I need more information before I start. The timing isn't right. There's too much going on right now. I should wait until I feel more confident. Other people have it easier than me. They have connections, they have money, they have the right situation. Every single one of those thoughts feels completely rational in the moment. They feel like wisdom. They feel like patience. But strip off the disguise and look at what's actually underneath. It's the exact same ancient alarm system, just speaking to you in the language of logic instead of the language of raw fear. Because it learned that raw fear alone wasn't always enough to stop you. So it got smarter. It got sneakier. It started dressing up as your own good judgment. This is why willpower alone almost never wins this fight. You cannot outlogic a threat detection system using logic, because the system isn't actually interested in logic. It's interested in survival, and it will hijack your logic to serve that goal every single time. You can know, intellectually, with complete certainty, that starting the business is a good idea. You can have the spreadsheet. You can have the plan. You can have every rational argument stacked in your favor. And you will still feel your stomach twist and your mind start generating excuses, because the part of you that's scared doesn't read spreadsheets. It doesn't care about your plan. It only responds to one thing: evidence through your own actions that the thing you're afraid of will not destroy you. This is why I need you to understand something that most people go their entire lives never learning. You do not defeat fear with more thinking. You defeat fear with movement, small enough that you can start it in the next 60 seconds, but real enough that it counts as action instead of another lap around the block of planning. Thinking is where fear lives. It's fear's home turf. Every minute you spend thinking it through, past the point where you already have enough information to start, you are inviting fear to sit down at the table and make itself comfortable. It will always find a new angle, a new risk, a new what if, because that is its entire function. It never runs out of material. You could sit and think about starting for the next 10 years, and fear would still find something new to whisper to you on day 3650. The only exit door out of that room is action. Not perfect action, not fully prepared action, just action. I want to tell you about a pattern I want you to watch for in your own life, because once you see it, it changes everything. Notice the difference between how you feel right before you do something hard and how you feel 5 minutes after you've started it. Think about a cold shower if you've ever taken one. Standing outside that shower, hand on the handle, is agony. Your whole body is screaming at you not to do it. But the second the water hits you and you push through those first 10 seconds, something remarkable happens. The fear evaporates and gets replaced by something closer to power. That gap, that tiny window between about to start and just started, is the most dangerous territory in your entire life, because that's where 90% of dreams go to die. People don't fail at the hard part. They fail at the starting part. The actual doing, once you're in motion, is almost always more survivable than your mind promised it would be. It's the doorway that's terrifying. The room on the other side is just a room. Let me give you a real one. Think about every single person you've ever admired who overcame something brutal. Someone who lost everything and rebuilt. Someone who got the diagnosis and fought anyway. Someone who got laughed out of a room and went on to build an empire in that exact same industry. If you actually sat down and asked them, when exactly did the fear go away, they would tell you something that surprises most people. It didn't go away before they started. It went away because they started. They didn't wait for some magical internal shift where suddenly they woke up unafraid and ready. They took the terrified version of themselves and they marched that terrified version directly into the fire, shaking the whole way. The transformation happened during the walk, not before it. Stop waiting to become someone brave enough to start. Start, and you will become someone brave along the way. That order is not negotiable. It's not a lucky shortcut some people get and others don't. It is the only order that has ever worked for anyone in the history of human achievement. Now, I want to talk about something even heavier, something most people won't say out loud, and it's this. Your fear is not really about the outcome you say it's about. When you're scared to start the business, you tell yourself it's about the money, about the risk, about the market. When you're scared to leave the relationship, you tell yourself it's about logistics, about not wanting to hurt anyone, about needing more time. But underneath every one of those surface fears is one single, primal fear that's been running the show since you were a small child. The fear of not being enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, not lovable enough, not disciplined enough. That fear was likely planted early. A comment from a parent, a moment of public embarrassment, a comparison to someone else that cut deeper than anyone realized. And your mind has spent years, maybe decades, building elaborate structures around that one wound so you'd never have to look directly at it. Every excuse, every delay, every "I'll start Monday," every "I need to research more first." All of it is scaffolding built around a small, frightened part of you that's been trying to protect itself since before you can even remember. And here's the part that should make you sit up straight. That fear is lying to you. It was formed by a child who did not yet have the tools, the strength, or the perspective that you have right now as the person listening to this. You are not that child anymore. You are carrying an outdated verdict about your own worth, issued by a jury that had no business making that ruling in the first place, and you have been living your entire adult life as if that verdict were final. It is not final. Nothing about it is final. You get to reopen that case anytime you choose, and the evidence you gather from this day forward is what determines the new verdict. So here's what we do with all of this. Understanding the machine is step one, and you now understand it better than the majority of people ever will in their entire lives. But understanding alone doesn't move a single muscle. It doesn't send a single email. Insight without action is just an expensive form of entertainment. You feel enlightened for an afternoon and then go right back to the same patterns because you skipped the part where you actually have to do something uncomfortable with what you just learned. So in the next part, we are going to get our hands dirty. we're going to talk about the exact mechanics, the specific, practical, no excuses process for taking action while fear is still screaming in your ear, because waiting for it to go quiet is not a strategy, it's a life sentence. We're going to talk about the 90-second rule, about how to shrink a terrifying goal down into something so small your fear can't even find a foothold, and about what separates the people who break through from the people who stay circling the runway their entire lives, never taking off. But before we go there, I want you to do one thing with the rest of your day, right now, after this ends. I want you to take the thing you named earlier, the thing you've been avoiding, and I want you to take one action on it today. Not tomorrow, not this weekend, today. It can be small. It can be embarrassingly small. Send the first message, write the first paragraph, make the first call, put on the shoes and walk out the door. It does not need to be impressive. It only needs to be real. And it only needs to happen in the next 24 hours, because fear does not respect your intentions. It only respects your actions. Let's get into the mechanics now. No more theory. No more looking at the machine from a distance. We're going to open it up and get grease on our hands, because understanding fear without a system to act on it is like knowing exactly how a lock works and still standing outside the door forever. Here is the first tool, and I want you to actually use this, not just nod along and forget it by tomorrow. It's called the 90-second rule, and it comes directly from what we talked about before. That fear, as a pure physical sensation, only lasts about 90 seconds before it naturally starts to fade, unless you keep feeding it with catastrophic thoughts. So here's how you use it. The next time you feel that wave rising, the tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, the urge to close the laptop, hang up the phone, walk away from the opportunity, I want you to do something almost nobody does. I want you to look directly at the sensation and count. Just count. 90 seconds. Don't fight the feeling. Don't tell yourself to calm down, because telling yourself to calm down is like yelling at a smoke detector to stop beeping. It doesn't understand the request, and it doesn't work. Instead, treat the fear like weather, a storm passing over you. You don't argue with a storm. You don't try to convince it to leave early. You just stay standing while it moves through, because you already know, with certainty now, that it has an expiration date. Most people never learn this, so the second the wave hits, they make a decision. Close the tab, hang up, retreat, while standing directly in the middle of the storm at its most intense point. And then they spend the rest of their life believing that decision reflected the truth about what they're capable of. It didn't. It just reflected bad timing. You made a permanent decision based on a temporary chemical event. Never do that again. From this point forward, no major retreat decisions during the 90 seconds. Ride it out. Let the chemicals do their thing and pass. Then decide. Here's the second tool, and this one is even more important because it deals with the paralysis that happens before you even get to the 90-second wave. The paralysis of the goal being too big to even approach. This is where most dreams actually die, quietly, not in some dramatic failure, but in the simple fact that the target was so massive, so far away, that the mind couldn't find a single, believable first step and just stopped looking. Build a successful business is not a task. Your brain cannot act on that. It's too abstract, too enormous, too loaded with 1,000 ways to fail. So your mind, faced with something that huge and vague, does what it always does with overwhelming threats. It freezes. The same way a deer freezes in headlights. Not because freezing is smart, but because the threat is too big to process into a clear action. The fix for this is brutally simple and criminally underused. Shrink the task until fear can no longer find a foothold on it. Not write the book. Write one paragraph. Not get in shape. Put on your shoes and walk to the end of the driveway. Not start the business. Send one message to one potential customer. Make the action so small, so laughably unimpressive, that the part of your brain screaming danger literally cannot justify treating it as a threat. There is no tiger crouching in the grass over write one paragraph. Your alarm system stands down because the target is too small to trigger it. And here's the secret nobody tells you. Momentum doesn't care how small the first domino is. It only cares that it fell. Once you've written one paragraph, writing a second one requires far less activation energy than the first one did, because you are no longer standing at the edge of the cliff. You're already moving. Discipline is not some superhuman force of willpower that certain lucky people were just born with. Discipline, most of the time, is just the skill of making the first step so small that starting stops being a decision and just becomes the obvious next motion. Now here's the third piece, and this is the one that separates people who build a life from people who build a highlight reel of good intentions. You have to remove the negotiation window. Understand this. Every single time you leave a gap between deciding to do something and actually doing it, you are opening a courtroom, and your fear is going to walk in as the prosecuting attorney with a briefcase full of arguments against you. Maybe tomorrow is better. Let me think about this a little more. I should sleep on it. Every hour of delay is another hour fear gets to build its case. And fear is a phenomenal lawyer. It has had your entire life to practice on you, and it knows exactly which arguments land. The way you beat a lawyer who's had decades of practice is not by out-arguing them in the courtroom. It's by never letting the case go to trial in the first place. The instant you feel the pull to act, the instant that flicker of "I should do this" appears, you move on it within seconds, not days. Send the message before you can reread it 4 times. Sign up before you can look up 17 more reviews. Walk into the gym before you can check the class schedule for the 11th time this week. This isn't recklessness. This is understanding that your window of courage is often measured in seconds, and if you let it close, you might be waiting weeks for another one to open. Let me tell you about a man who lost his job, his savings, and very nearly his family, all within the same 18-month stretch. He'd spent almost 20 years building a career in an industry that vanished practically overnight, and he woke up one morning in his 40s with a mortgage, 2 kids, and absolutely no plan. Everyone around him told him the same thing, dressed up as concern: be realistic, take whatever you can get. This isn't the time to take risks. You have a family to think about. And you know what? Those voices sound loving. They sound protective. But so often, be realistic is just fear wearing the mask of someone who loves you. He had one skill nobody valued at the time. He understood how to fix small engines, something he'd learned from his own father in a garage decades earlier. Everyone told him it was a hobby, not a business. He was terrified. He had every rational reason to stay terrified. No savings cushion, no safety net, a family depending on him. But he started small enough that fear couldn't get a grip. He fixed one neighbor's lawnmower for free, just to remind his own hands what they were capable of. Then he fixed one for $20. Then he made a single flyer and put it on one bulletin board at one hardware store. Not a business plan, not a loan, not a storefront. One flyer. That's it. 3 years later, he had a shop with 4 employees and a name people in 3 counties recognized. When people ask him now what changed, he doesn't talk about strategy. He talks about the fear that showed up every single morning for the first year, and how he stopped waiting for it to leave before he unlocked the shop door. He just unlocked the door anyway, fear riding shotgun the entire time, every single day, until one day he looked around and realized fear had quietly gotten smaller and smaller in the passenger seat, Not because he'd fought it into submission, but because he had simply outgrown the size of the seat it used to fill. That story isn't rare because the man was exceptional. It's common in its shape and rare in its execution, because almost everyone who's ever stood where he stood had the same option available to them. Start absurdly small, right now, today. And almost everyone chose to wait instead. The waiting always feels smarter in the moment. It always sounds like wisdom. I'll wait until things are more stable. But stability is not something that arrives and taps you on the shoulder. Stability is something you build, brick by terrified brick, and the first brick is always laid while the ground still feels shaky under your feet. Here's another mechanism you need in your toolkit. I call it borrowing courage from the future version of yourself. Right now, in this exact moment, you are the least equipped version of yourself that you will ever be for the thing you're afraid of. That sounds discouraging, but it's actually the most liberating fact I can hand you, because it means the fear you feel right now is the maximum fear you will ever have to pay for this. Every single action you take makes the next version of you slightly more capable, slightly less afraid, slightly more equipped to handle what's next. The first phone call you make to a potential client will be the hardest one you ever make on that subject, guaranteed, because you'll never again be as inexperienced at it as you are right before the first one. So when the fear feels unbearable, remind yourself, this is the toll booth. This exact moment, right here, is the most expensive the toll will ever be. Everything after this gets cheaper. People who succeed aren't people who found a way around the toll booth. They're people who understood that paying it once, right now, at full price, is the only way through. I also want to address something directly, because I know it's sitting in the back of your mind right now. The fear of what happens if you take the action and it doesn't work. You do the hard thing, and it fails anyway. Let's not pretend that's impossible, because pretending is not the same as courage. It's just denial wearing a costume. Yes, sometimes you take the leap and you don't land where you wanted. But here's what almost nobody tells you about failure once you've actually lived through it. It is never as final or as public or as permanent as your fear promised you it would be. Fear is the most dishonest narrator in your entire life. It tells you that if you fail, everyone will see, everyone will remember, everyone will judge you forever. The truth is, most people are so consumed with their own fears and their own unlived lives that your failure barely registers on their radar for more than a passing moment. The only person who carries a failed attempt for the rest of their life, replaying it, is often the person too afraid to have made the attempt at all. Because at least the person who tried has a story. The person who didn't try just has silence. And silence is a far heavier thing to carry through the decades than any specific failure ever could be. So here's the standard I want you to hold yourself to, starting today, and I want you to say it back to yourself the next time fear shows up trying to negotiate. I do not need to feel ready. I only need to move. Feeling ready was never part of the deal. It was never promised to you, and it is not coming. Not today, not next week, not after one more course, one more book, one more sign from the universe. The sign you've been waiting for is this moment, right now, and the only response that counts is motion. In the final part, we're going to bring this all the way home. We're going to talk about identity, about what it means to become someone for whom action in the face of fear isn't an occasional act of bravery, but simply who you are, every single day, without exception. We're going to talk about legacy, about the story your life is quietly writing, whether you're paying attention to it or not, and about the one decision made today that changes the entire trajectory of everything that comes after it. We've talked about the machinery of fear. We've talked about the tools to move through it. Now we're going to talk about the only thing that actually makes any of it stick for the rest of your life, and that's identity. Because here's the truth that ties everything together. You do not become brave by doing one brave thing. You become brave by becoming the kind of person who does the next brave thing, and then the next one after that, until it stops being an event in your life and starts being simply who you are. The same way breathing isn't an event, it's just a constant, quiet fact about you. Most people treat courage like a vacation, something they visit occasionally on a good day, when the stars align and the motivation is high and everything feels right. They give a speech once, feel proud of themselves for a week, and then go right back to the version of themselves that flinches at the first sign of discomfort. That's not identity change. That's a tourist trip into bravery, followed by a full return home to who they've always been. And I need you to understand, deeply in your bones, that a single act of courage, no matter how impressive, does not rewrite the story you tell yourself about who you are. What rewrites that story is repetition, evidence gathered over and over, action after action, until one day you catch yourself in a hard moment and you notice, almost without meaning to, that you didn't hesitate the way you used to. That's not an accident. That's a new identity, built the same slow, unglamorous way every strong thing in this world gets built. Brick by brick, rep by rep, decision by decision, with absolutely nobody watching most of the time. Here's a question I want you to actually sit with, not skim past. What does the person you're trying to become actually do when fear shows up? Not what do they say, not what do they post. What do they do physically in the 15 seconds after the fear hits? Because that person you're picturing, the confident one, the one who takes the leap, the one who builds the thing, the one who walks away from what's killing them and toward what's calling them, that person is not fearless. I told you that already, and I'm telling you again because it bears repeating until it's carved into you. That person still feels the exact same cold drop in the stomach you feel right now. The only difference between you and them is a track record. They have a growing pile of evidence that says, I have done hard things before, and I survived, and often I was better for it. You are still standing at the base of that pile, and the only way to add to it is the exact same way they did. One uncomfortable action at a time, starting embarrassingly small, starting today, starting with something so unglamorous that nobody will ever write a headline about it. I want you to think about your life as a story that is being written, whether you participate in the authorship or not. Every day that passes is a page. Every choice you make, or refuse to make, gets written down permanently. There's no draft mode for a life, no undo button, no chance to go back and revise the chapter where you stayed silent instead of speaking up or stayed comfortable instead of leaping. Right now, today, you are writing a page. The only question that matters is what's going to be written on it. Is it going to be another page where fear held the pen, where you did the safe thing, the small thing, the thing that changes nothing, the thing that looks identical to yesterday's page and the page before that and the page before that, until one day you look back at an entire chapter, an entire year, an entire decade, and realize it was the same page copied over and over, a life spent in place, mistaken for a life spent moving? Or is today going to be the page where something shifts, where you take the pen back from fear and write one sentence, just one, that your future self will point to and say, that's where it started. That's the moment everything changed. Because that's how it actually happens for every person who's ever transformed their life. It's never one giant, cinematic moment where the music swells and everything suddenly makes sense. It's one Tuesday, one unremarkable, forgettable Tuesday where a person who had been stuck for months or years finally sent the message, made the call, walked into the room, said the thing they'd been swallowing for a decade. Nobody throws a parade on that Tuesday. Nobody even notices most of the time. But that Tuesday becomes the hinge the rest of their life swings on, and it's only visible as a hinge looking backward. You will not know on the day you finally act that it's the day. You'll just know that you're scared and you did it anyway. That's all it ever looks like from the inside. The magnitude only becomes visible in the rearview mirror. I want you to think, for a moment, about the ending. Not in a morbid way, in a clarifying way. Because one day, whether it's 50 years from now or 5, you are going to reach the final chapter of this story, and you are going to look back across the whole of it. And in that moment, I promise you, you will not care about the times you looked foolish. You will not care about the rejection emails, the awkward conversations, the plans that fell apart, the version of the business that failed before the one that worked. Those will barely register as pain by then. If anything, they'll register as proof that you were someone who tried. What you will care about, what will actually sit heavy in that final chapter, are the pages where nothing happened. The years you spent circling the same fear, telling yourself the same story about waiting for the right time, watching the calendar turn while the thing that mattered to you sat untouched. Regret does not come from the leaps that didn't land perfectly. Regret comes from the leaps you never took at all, because those are the only ones that leave a permanent, unanswerable question mark instead of an answer, however imperfect that answer turned out to be. Nobody lies on their deathbed replaying the humiliation of a failed attempt with more weight than the ache of a life spent not attempting. Every single account we have of people at the true end of their story says the same thing in 1,000 different voices. I wish I had been brave sooner. Nobody has ever said the opposite. Nobody has ever said, I wish I had played it safer. I wish I had waited longer. I wish I had let fear win more often. Not once. Not ever. That silence, that complete absence of a single counterexample across the entire history of human experience should tell you everything you need to know about which direction to walk in. So let's bring this all the way home. Fear exists. It's not going anywhere. It is wired into you at a level deeper than logic, deeper than willpower, deeper than any single pep talk, including this one, could ever fully erase. But fear only exists until you take action. The moment you move, really move, not think about moving, not plan to move next week, not wait to feel ready to move. The moment you actually move, fear loses its grip. Not because it disappears in some magical instant, but because action and fear cannot occupy the same space for long. One of them always yields. And for your entire life up to this point, you have been letting fear be the one that stays while you're the one that yields. Today, that ends. Not because I said so in a video, because you decide it ends. Because somewhere in the last several minutes, something in you recognized the pattern, recognized the excuse, recognized the exact shape of the thing you've been avoiding, and felt that unmistakable, uncomfortable pull toward finally doing something about it. So here is your assignment, and it is not optional if you actually want your life to look different a year from now than it does today. Take the thing, the one you named, the one sitting in the back of your mind through every single word of this. And in the next hour, not tomorrow, not this weekend, the next hour, take one small, real, physical action toward it. Send the message, make the call, write the sentence, open the account, put on the shoes. It does not need to be big. It only needs to be true. And it only needs to happen while this feeling is still alive in your chest. Because this feeling, right now, is the most motivated you will ever be to start before you've actually started. Don't let it go cold. Don't let it become one more thing you meant to do. Fear exists only until you take action. That's not a slogan. That's the entire operating manual for a life well lived, and you now have it. What you do with it in the next 60 minutes is the only part of this story that was ever actually up to you.